What's going on, guys? JD at JD's Custom Buggies. So today we have the 313 in here. We just did a video on it. Check it out. We're going to be installing one of these Ssp-G roller torque spring bases on. And what's kind of nice about them now, they've been redesigned. They used to basically be about this much taller and look like the seat that was already in the clutch itself, in the clutch pulley. But what they've done is, and then when you installed them, there'd be a bunch of BBs and stuff you'd have to try not to lose as you're putting it together, and yeah, it was just, it was too much work. But what they've done is redesigned it now, so if you order them now from gotbuggies.com, they're all one piece and they're sealed now, which is really nice, and they do spin and everything. They're lower profile, and what I think that will help is put less tension on your existing torque spring, because with the larger BBs that were in the other unit, it did make it a little tighter to get the clutch on there, or a little harder. So I mean, as you put more pressure on a spring, it tends to be tighter. So if you're using like a 1,500-pound spring with the old one, it might have upped it to, you know, 1,600 or 1,700. It would put more tension on a spring, make it thicker, put more pressure on it, and you wouldn't get the actual spring rate that you had in your unit. So first thing we need to do is we are going to take our CVT cover off. And it's going to be a little tight in here. I do have an extension to make my life a little easier when I need to, but I think I can grab a couple more of these without it. That one. Okay. Let's try and get an extension. Take it from out here. I hate vendors. That extension is not going to do it. I believe I got one more down here. Let's see if we can get to it. The shaft's kind of in the way. Well, I might have to get a ratchet for. That was funny. Okay. Just remember, this is an older style motor. So we usually have 6 bolts that are the same length, which are, there's 6mm bolts that are 40mm long, and then you'll have 2 on the end that are longer. So if you can get an idea of the, and I'm gonna say, I'm guessing, I forget the actual length, but I want to say they're like 55mm long. So you'll have 8 bolts total. So, bolts out. Cover comes off. All right, so we're gonna take off a variator in our clutch. off our belt, slide our clutch off. Alright, so next thing we have to do, get the belt off. Next move is, we're going to take this nut off. Alright, so we got a 39mm socket on impact gun. This is just my preferred way to do it. I take my feet, kind of put one foot over each side of the clutch, because this is spring loaded. I think it's just the setting on the gun. There we go. Alright, nuts off. Then take my foot. Boom. Alright, so we got our clutch off. Now in the old style of this same unit, like we were talking about, they changed it. It actually took the place of this spring seat here. You twist this off, which you always want to be careful when you do, because there are buttons in here. You can see them. But in this case, they redesigned it so it just fits right in there. And then your torque spring sits back in here. So if you see one that looks like the actual spring seat, then yes, you will have to remove this whole portion and then slide that all on. And usually that's the ones that'll have like separate, you have to, the bearings are BBs that you put in, and then you put a lid on it, and then you put your spring on. In this case, which is nice, you just slip that in there and it actually fits inside the seat itself. So that's part of the new design. So now, get our clutch. Now, you notice, probably you guys have already been in here, but you have two flat spots on this opening. You just want to basically push down and line that up, so it slides in there. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to take my 2 feet back again, and I'm going to start this with my fingers. I'm trying to balance myself so my feet isn't really tilting the clutch one way or the other. So I'm going to add my hand here. It's very important that you get the thread started. These threads are so thin, it really doesn't take much to mess the nuts up or the threads on the clutch. Alright. And once it's started, I'm just giving it some turns with the socket to make sure and it's spinning easy. Yep. Alright. There's going to be a little less, when you add this, there is going to be a little bit less sticking out of the hole than there would be. The reason why I'm going very gentle on this, because it's a forged aluminum pulley, and the last thing I want to do is strip the threads out of it. I might attack it a little harder if it was a standard pulley. But I'm going to be nice and gentle with this thing because it's not cheap and it wouldn't take much to screw it up. So that's basically it. Your drum goes back on. And then when you're all said and done, you just basically put everything back together like you took it apart. So if this is something that interests you, I'll post a link in the comment section or in the description. But do they work? Yeah, I've been using them for 2 years, 3 years now. And it was something that I come across when I started dealing with the company, Ssp-G and whatnot. And I've been using it, and I overall like the way my clutching feels. And I mean, there's more than just I'm using one of these pulleys now. I'm actually using the similar setup that Scott has here on the 313. We have the forged adjustable pulley from TFC. You have an Ssp-G torque spring. Now we have the roller torque spring base in there, and a Dr. Pulley hit clutch, and then topped off with a Ssp-G drum. And that's basically the same combination I use. A lot of the other guys pretty much are, if they're not using this, they're real close. But it's a real good clutch setup. It's definitely a game changer as far as a lot of the other setups out there. But it's not cheap. I mean, you're talking about $300 clutch sitting on a, it's $250 pulley, and about a $40 drum. So, I mean, just that setup alone, and then you count the spring and the torque spring base, you're holding almost $600 in your hands here. So, not cheap, but works great. But my dad used to tell me, good ain't cheap and cheap ain't good. And this is one of those things that pretty much fits in that category. So we're going to put all this back together. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comment section. If you need parts, go to gotbuggies.com. We have a wide range of clutch parts, probably more selection than just about anybody else out there. And thanks for hanging out. See ya.